Howdy, guys. Welcome back. Good Monday evening to y'all. Wow, we got all kinds of exciting things going on this week. Changes we're going to talk about in terms of the production, in terms of schedule, everything else. I am so glad y'all came back out here and found me. So as I always do, I got to start off the show with a big old SKD 143. I love my wife, I love my kids, and I love everyone out here who's watching the show again. Thank y'all again. As I mentioned, a little bit of changes. Y'all saw I'm now big time. I've got a producer. I've got my little intro screen that y'all got to watch. So instead of watching me fumble and trying to figure all the stuff out on the screen, we're kind of stepping it up. So we had that, but beyond that, as y'all know, I'm sure, Big Brother has moved from Sunday night to Monday night, and last thing I want to do is be competing against Big Brother itself. So we backed my show back an hour. I think that's what we're going to do for the rest of the season. So if y'all were out here an hour ago saying, where's Cliff? Well, now you know. You just had to wait a little bit longer, so I'm glad y'all found me. Now, the other thing that's a little bit different from times past is we are now broadcasting on a variety of platforms. I think we're on Facebook, Periscope, YouTube, Twitch. So any of y'all who may have found me from one of those platforms, welcome aboard. Happy to have y'all. We're going to be talking all Big Brother over the next hour. Now, off season, we talk travel stories and a lot of different things. But right now, we're going to be talking primarily Big Brother. I love answering questions. I've got the comments pulled up, and I'm going to be trying to read as many and answering as many questions as I can. So I've got some things we'll talk about. But mainly, I just want to find out what y'all are interested in, and we'll cover everything we can in the next hour. It's funny, this show was supposed to come on right after the Big Brother episode. So we're going to talk all about the HOH we're going to show and all that. Well, now because of football, we're actually coming on the hour beforehand. So that's all right. Y'all know me. I can always talk about anything and everything. So we'll be good to go. All y'all guys out there, howdy, Angie, David, Top Gun, all Mole Man, all y'all are out here. Thank y'all so much once again. Now, before I go any further, I did want to mention, I mentioned on Instagram post earlier, but I did want to tell y'all there is a giveaway that TVCO, thank you TVCO, is giving a $50 Amazon gift card just as a reward for y'all being out here. My understanding is what you have to do. You need to go out to within the TVCO app, find the Cliff Notes community page. Now, you don't have to do it right now because I want y'all to watch me right now. But afterwards, you can go out to the community page. You should see a post that says $50 Amazon gift card. If you'll comment within that posting, then you're automatically entered. And sometime after the show itself, they'll be awarding it to someone, and I'll find out who it is, and we'll talk about it next week. So hey. You can watch me while you're waiting for the Big Brother to come on, and you can get $50 worth of Amazon products as well. So anyway, all right, so we've got that going on. So let's talk about what's going on just a little bit before we get to Big Brother itself. I always talk about National Coffee Day, Beer Drinker Day, things like that. Well, we don't have quite as much going on today. Let's see, I want to get my screen going here, guys. But I don't want to leave out. We had National New Jersey Day earlier. For those of you who live in Rhode Island, you million or so people over there, today is National Rhode Island Day. Congrats, guys, from one of the biggest to the smallest. Congratulations on your special day. It's pretty funny. I used to work out in West Texas. There's a county out there called Loving County. I think Rhode Island's about 1,200 square miles. Loving County, just a single county in Texas, is 700 square miles, so it's huge. It's nothing but oil wells and 160 people across the whole county versus, 1.5 million or so in Rhode Island. So a little bit different environment. But again, we're Texas. We do everything big. But happy National Day to you, Rhode Island. Dale, thank you so much for the animation. I do appreciate it. So anyway, I just want to throw that out there. That's enjoy your special day, Rhode Island, because we're all special in this country, right? All right. Top Gun says my birthday is National Frappe Day. Okay, well, we got days for everything, don't we? PVG fan is saying, is Big Brother going to be on in 1 hour? Yeah, here's the deal. It's supposed to come on right after the football game that's going on in CBS, so it's around an hour. I don't know that we know for certain. I'm talking to y'all, and I got kind of corner of my eye watching a football game as well, so I'll let y'all know. But yeah, it should start right about 10 o'clock Eastern time, 9 o'clock Central time. So again, I I get to talk to y'all for an hour as an introduction, and then we get to actually go to the show itself. The lights in Loving County. There's not a whole lot of lights or anything else in Loving County. So let's see. Oh, Top Gun, birthday. Yeah, Top Gun. Happy birthday to you. It's on Wednesday. Oh, and Angie, thank you for the animation. I appreciate it so much. I do indeed. Oh, frappe is like coffee. Okay. I just drink my coffee black with a little cream, and I'm good to go. Yeah, back in this last season, I drank so much coffee in that house, but I just almost had to. You couldn't sleep during the day. They had to keep you awake. So coffee drinking was my way to just stay awake while I was listening to a bunch of people talking that I was kind of tired of hearing talking every once in a while. Mark Ray, any thoughts on today's Houston Texans coaching news? Well, they can't do any worse than the old coaches, considering that the Texans are 0-4. All right, let's talk about some things going on. What have I been up to? We're going to do this real quick because I know y'all want to talk about Big Brother, as do I. But what have I been up to? Well, it's kind of interesting. Saturday, we had the shortened NBA season. We had baseball going on. But I just haven't been able to get into them too much. Just so much other stuff going on and all. Football, on the other hand, it was so great on Saturday. I spent almost a whole day doing nothing but watching college football. Still not quite the same as it was before COVID, but at least we got to watch the game. Now, if my Aggies had beat Bama, I'd be jumping for joy. But didn't happen. That's all right. I'm still glad to have football again. If my Houston Texans had won yesterday, I'd be excited too, but not the best football weekend for old Boss Hog, but I'm still glad I had it. So did that, but beyond that, it's all been Big Brother, watching the live feeds. I know a lot of y'all know, but maybe not everyone, that every night I stay up all night long watching until the house guests go to bed, which has been 3-4 o'clock in the morning. Stay up all night watching the house guests and put a little 15-minute wrap up together the next morning and put on Instagram, YouTube, different channels. Been having fun with that, having a blast. But I'm getting a little bit worried. Suddenly we've got 6 people. We're getting ready to drop down to 5 people. And with fewer people, there's starting to be a real slowdown. People don't feel like they need to stay up all night long. The positions, the alliances within that house have become a bit more stable. There's a lot less rushing around in the middle of the night. Even up until just a couple of weeks ago, Danny was trying, and Nicole both were trying to talk to Cody every single night as soon as other people went to bed. We're not seeing quite as much of that now. I'm afraid that another week or so, my 15-minute wrap-ups may be getting a little bit shorter. I remember from last season, these last few weeks get so boring in that house. Yeah, there's a lot of stress because you're so close to a $500,000 prize. But at the same time, there's only so much that can be said. And eventually you get to the point where I know I had the key room all to myself, sleeping in that single room, and you didn't have to see people a lot like you do when there's 15 or 16 people in there. So it's going to change a little bit, and but that's all right. We'll still find the things to talk about. We'll start talking a lot more about the strategy as well as they get to the very, very end of it. Yeah, David, the Stars didn't win the Stanley Cup. I saw the very end of that game, and so yeah, they didn't win, but it's all right. I remember that when they did win, I think they beat Buffalo. I actually watched that game. Amazing. Game 7 playoff is incredible. But, yeah, whatever. At least we got some sports going on. All right. Nicole B. Cliff, you have such a positive attitude towards most everything, even when it's something that's clearly annoying. Yeah, that's a whole lot of experience is all I've got to say with that. I've done enough things. I've been on the very top. I've been on the very bottom of the curves. I figured out a long time ago. It drives my kids crazy because anytime anything happens, my first question is always, is everyone okay? As long as they say yeah, then I say, well, the rest of it we can fix. We'll figure it out, whatever. So I do think it's just a matter of priorities. Family and health is where it's all at. Anything else, you work your way through, whatever. I tried to keep that attitude in the house, and for the most part, I did it. There are a few times even inside there that the stress gets to you, and that's just they build it into the game. The game is designed to create stress, and they do a pretty good job at it, don't they? All right, Angie's saying that Final Six this year is dull, unlike last year. Yeah, it's funny, and we'll talk about it in a little bit, but last year we had our Final Six were 3 duos, and you didn't know who was shooting at each other in that Final Six. And then, of course, we had the whole decision about Holly versus Tommy. There were a lot of things that were happening in ours. And maybe we'll get some of that. Our issue this year has just been that the committee just keeps winning these competitions over and over again. So you haven't seen the shakeups. You haven't seen people feeling threatened necessarily. So yeah, I keep saying wait for the fireworks. And we got a little bit of it last week with the triple eviction, but I want more. I just want more. All right. So with that being said, let's talk a little bit about not a lot of big game moves. You're right. Let's talk a little bit about some of the things that are going on. First of all, what did y'all think about the triple eviction? I was so excited to see that thing come up. I wasn't sure what the format was going to be. It turns out it was not like the Canadian version. They actually had an HOH competition, a veto, sent someone out. Then they did another HOH competition, another veto, sent someone else out. That was a busy night. Julie Chen was saying, oh, how exhausted she was. I can only imagine the house guests inside, what kind of stress it was for those guys, thinking they were through, and then suddenly they've got a whole nother round to deal with. Now, I will say I hate that the house guests were given any kind of heads up at all. If it had been my control, I wouldn't have said a word. I would have caught them so off guard, so they didn't have any strategy planned up. And we saw a little bit of that. Even Tyler with David and Tyler and Christmas voting one way. If that wasn't an double eviction night or triple eviction night, there would have been more planning. They may not have gotten caught off guard like they did, voting the wrong way with the rest of the house. So that's the beauty about these double eviction type nights, is you force people to make quick decisions that would be different from the conventional night. Our double eviction last year, of course, it was easier for us because Nicole won the HOH. So as soon as she won that, I knew I was safe. Then it was just a matter of making the best decision. Then I won veto, and there were a lot of scenarios that went through my mind about things I could do, wanted to do, but in the end, I didn't use a veto, and we sent Christy out the door, and but I knew I was safe. But without that, it's just a long, long night. And what we forget is we didn't just have two HOHs and two veto competitions that night. We also had a third HOH competition that occurred afterwards. And we'll see that this evening on the CBS broadcast. And for those of you who don't know, and if you don't know, what are you doing out here listening to me? But for those of you who don't know, once again, Cody has won the HOH competition. I feel like Groundhog Day. I don't even have to change my notes. I just say the same thing again. Cody won HOH for the week. He has won a lot of competitions. And beyond Cody, outside the committee alliance, I think Enzo's the only other person who's won an HOH competition. And he might as well be the committee for as tight as he is with everyone. So, yeah, it was not quite as exciting. There wasn't as much of a shakeup as I was hoping it would be. But, more power to the people who are winning the thing. They had a good strategy coming in. But anyway, let's see. David saying, I don't think David understood how the game is played. It is definitely a learning curve to figure this game out. The social game, the competitions, you just get out there and you play the best you can. But the social game is a whole lot different. Courtney J saying, I love David the person. He just wasn't good at the game. David is such a nice guy, so personable, charismatic. But yeah, he just didn't quite. He's swimming amongst sharks. He's in an all-star season with some ruthless people, and he just got caught up. And I feel so bad that he felt so helpless that Davon wouldn't believe him, and he couldn't do anything about it other than just keep saying over and over again that I didn't flip on you, and she never did believe him. I hope they ironed it all out inside the jury house. I'm sure they did. I have no doubt. So let's see. What else? I was disappointed. Well, yeah, it would have been fun to see someone outside the alliance win it. But at this point in time, everyone now that's left, it is what it is. We don't have any outsiders. Kevin's gone. David's gone. So we'll just have to watch them taking the shots off of at each other. Nicole saying, I feel like Cody is unstoppable. Yeah, I'm kind of getting that same feeling as well. Cody's most risky situation, I think, is going to be on Thursday. He can't compete for the HOH. This is his most vulnerable position. If someone else, and when I say someone, it really has to be Christmas. I think if Christmas wins it, she puts Nicole and Cody on the block. And then, who knows? People start talking. Maybe a few people decide to take a shot at Cody. But I think if Cody makes it through this coming up week, I think he's a good shot to make it to the final two. He's just so insulated with everyone else in that house. He reminds me a little bit like Paul in season 19, where he had so many people connected to him and protecting him. Enzo just said today on the live feed, said, "Oh yeah, I got to protect Cody." Well, why do you have to protect Cody when he's the top person and you're only 5 or 6 people left? There's no protecting anyone at this point in the game. You got to worry about your own game. But now I think Cody is looking good. Terra Bear saying, I just don't want Cody to win because of pre-gaming. I get it. I hate there was pre-gaming that occurred. I felt like it limited some people when they got into the house. There was only so much you could do since things had already been agreed upon, allegedly. We've heard him talk. I'm sure it's not just allegedly, but it makes it tougher to compete within the game. It wasn't level playing ground for everyone, but it is what it is. I guess you have to expect a little bit of that when you're doing an all-star type season. And so, but good job to Cody. If he wins it, he deserves it. Anyone who wins it at this point in time will deserve it. Even Nicole. Nicole is going out of her way this week saying, I haven't won anything. I can't win anything. No one likes me. She's really setting herself to get drugged to the very end of this game into a final two. And that sounds like a sweet deal, because who's going to vote for Nicole since she's already won and all that? But all I can think is if she makes it to the final two, I know what her campaign speech is going to be in front of that jury. She is going to say, look at me. I was one of only 2 winners. I had a huge target on my back. I didn't win a single competition. And yet somehow, even with all of that, my social game is such that I still made it all the way to the final two. If that doesn't deserve getting the big prize, then what more could you ever expect or ask from me? I still don't know if that's enough to win it, but that's a heck of a pitch when you get right down to it. Cody might be gone next week if Nicole doesn't win HOH. Christmas will put him up. I think you're right, B. Haas. I know you're right. It's just a matter when it comes down to that. Say Christmas wins HOH. She puts up Cody and Nicole. It all really comes down to that POV. If Cody doesn't win the POV, you have Memphis and Enzo voting for who goes home. Who does Memphis want to go home? Does he want Nicole still in the game? Does he want Cody? I would think Memphis would rather keep Nicole. He's got to, right? Enzo, I don't know. Is Enzo still trying to protect Cody even to that point in time? I don't know. But it doesn't matter, because if Memphis wants Cody gone, he votes that way. Even if Enzo votes to send Nicole out the door, that still's a 1-1 tie, which means that then Christmas gets to make the decision. Now, Christmas, the smart choice would be send Cody out the door at that point, right? It has to be that decision. And yet, we know that Christmas and Nicole do not get along with each other whatsoever. If Christmas was to vote out Nicole instead of Cody, well, then I think she has not made the right decision, and that probably is the end of it for her. But if she goes the other way, suddenly you got Cody out, and it's a whole different ball game. So, yeah, I agree, B. Haas. I think next week's the tough one for Cody. The Mole Man, do you think that David thinks Christmas voted him out instead of Enzo? Yeah, I could easily see that. David, I don't think David knows. I don't think he will know until, let's assume Tyler goes home this coming up Thursday, which isn't a given, but it seems like it's the most likely outcome. Tyler may be able to go in and explain a little bit more the way the game's played out and maybe talk to David, but I don't know. I also wonder, we don't know anything about David because he wasn't on jury last year. I don't know if he would be a bitter juror if it came down to Christmas versus someone else on a final two. Is David going to vote for or against someone based on how he thinks they treated him versus just how they played the game? I don't know. That's going to be the surprise of it. And I know people have asked me before, did production talk to you before you cast your final jury vote? Did they know how you're going to go? Didn't have a clue. No one, I think I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago. No one asked me anything, so they really didn't. Now, maybe they knew how I was going to vote, but I don't think so. They don't know until the names are announced. So maybe the biggest surprise isn't going to be till finale night when someone, because of bitter jurors or something else, suddenly wins something that we didn't expect it. Yeah. Tyler would also nominate Nicole and Cody also. Yeah, I think you're right, Courtney J. He would. And that may be one of the reasons that they're so willing to send Tyler out the door. It's really an interesting situation this week because you've got Christmas, who is so tight with Memphis that there's a part of me that thinks, well, you break up that duo while you have the chance. Tyler is a little bit more of a lone wolf, it seems like, to me. Even though he's got a final two with Christmas, I still feel like Christmas and Memphis are a little tighter. So there's part of me that says you break up that duo of Christmas and Memphis and send her out the door. But Tyler is such a strong competitor as well. I really think he's a bigger competition threat than Christmas is. So you almost get the situation of, do you break up the relationship or do you break up the bigger competition threat? Kind of sounds like my season last year. Tommy was a bigger competition threat. Holly was a bigger relationship threat. Which way do you go? It's a tough one. It's going to be, but I think they've chosen Tyler. And part of it, I know Cody had even said that he was afraid if he went against Memphis, that then Memphis would really feel opposed to Cody, would come at Cody. Whereas if he goes along with Memphis, then suddenly it takes out Tyler, which Memphis doesn't care about. Then suddenly Memphis still feels like he's part of Cody's team, less likely to go after Cody, maybe going after someone else instead. So yeah, there may be something to that. B. Haas, thank you so much for the animation. I appreciate it. Yeah, David, I think you're right. Cody playing exactly like Paul in season 19, and people are protecting him just like season 19. Thank you, Christmas. Yet another season where you've done everything you can to protect someone else in the game. But make your choices, and you may still make it. Nicole, I hate pre-gaming. I do too. But when you have returning people, especially in Big Brother, the Big Brother community is so big out here with all the social media and all that I know I've only been out since last October, so what, a year now, and yet I know people in the Big Brother world. I talk to people. I've had podcasts with them and everything else. It's easy to see how people could talk to each other and work things out. And I don't think you can get around that. The only way you could get around that pre-gaming is if production set things up to force people to work in different ways than maybe they had set up. When people come into the house, put them on separate teams, sort of like different tribes in Survivor, some kind of battle of the block, something where you break up any kind of pre-gaming that might occur and force people to work with people otherwise. There may be some things you could have done with that, but pre-gaming may just be the nature of the beast for this particular game. But I don't know. I don't want that to mean they never have another All-Stars. I just think we have to accept that that's some of the things that happen sometimes. All right. Nicole saying, I think she's trying to make herself seem insignificant. It's kind of getting on my nerves. Is that Christmas or Nicole? You could almost say that about either one of them. Crosstrack. I don't think Davon will vote for her again. For those of you who don't know, Davon gave Nicole the vote back in her season that let Nicole win the game. Davon then found out that she'd gotten backstabbed by Nicole. We thought they'd kind of squash that beef during the season, but I think Davon took issue. As she talked about in her eviction speech with Julie, she considered it to be more than gameplay. She considered it to be kind of a personal attack that Nicole never told her that it was actually her and not David that flipped. So yeah, I think getting Davon's vote may be a little bit difficult for her. Christmas would want Nicole out. She wants to be the only girl. Yeah, Courtney J, I think you're right. It's kind of funny because Nicole, to some degree, did the same thing during her seasons. Christmas and Nicole both have tended to work more with the guys than with the other women in the house. And yeah, maybe that's why they're at such odds with each other. I don't know. But yeah, I think you're right. I think both of the women would just soon see the other one out the door and then work with the guys and finish this thing up. What do you think of Christmas's game? I'll get to that in just a second, Brandy, because I've got a little notes pulled up on all of them. I'll scoot down to that here in just a second. If Christmas was to make it to the final two, do you think she would get enough jury votes to win? Mark Ray. That's an interesting question. My gut says no. I don't think she beats Cody. I don't think she beats Enzo. If Tyler heads out the door, then that's not an issue. Does she have enough votes to beat Memphis? I don't think so. I think Christmas may be a dead man walking to some degree. I just think look at Danny. Danny was so mad at Christmas as she walked out the door. Danny would be talking to Nicole if Nicole gets into jury. I think there's a lot of people that are not going to want to give Christmas that money. So, yeah, it's going to be tough for her to do that. It's only me. I was hoping a woman would win, but it doesn't look that way at all. I don't think so. I don't think this season it's going to be Nicole or Christmas. Now, one of them, Nicole, I can easily see her making that final two. I just don't see her winning it. But prove me wrong. I may be proven wrng. Carstrike, my guess is Cody will cut Nicole final 3 like Derek did to him. Yeah, maybe. I really think Cody is sincere when he talks about wanting Nicole and Enzo as his final 3 with him, because I think he thinks he can beat either one, and he probably can. Yeah, that's a good one. I could see him. I don't know. I don't know. He may think it's so easy to beat Nicole since she's already won, because think about what his speech would be. With Enzo, he can say, hey, we worked together, and Enzo would talk about, oh, I was his sideman, I did all this stuff, and yet I always, was my own guy and all. Nicole, on the other hand, he's going to be able to come in and say, look, I carried Nicole every step of the way. She never did anything at all. If it wasn't for me, she would have been gone a long time ago. I think Cody, from a speech standpoint, has a lot more to say against Nicole than maybe he does against Enzo. And that's the only reason that makes me think that he may kick Enzo out and take Nicole to the very end. You also have to remember, whether this is pre-gaming or not, Cody's talked about the fact that his mom and Nicole's mom are best friends. They talk maybe not best friends, but they talk all the time. So there may be some expectations or some desires from Cody from outside the game, but just from a personal standpoint. He may want to take her along just because it sounds like there's a little more friendship within the families than maybe he's got with Enzo. But we'll see. The thing is, I think Cody wins against either one of them, so maybe it doesn't even matter. Top Gun Phantom, who would Enzo nominate? Here's the thing. I don't think Enzo necessarily wants to win this next HOH because you got to realize the next HOH cannot then compete in the final HOH at Final Four. And so Enzo, I think, is going to feel protected enough that he doesn't really want anyone to be put on the block, that he doesn't want to have to put anyone on the block. As long as he doesn't think he's going to be the target, he's going to let someone else win it. Now, if he did win it somehow, who would he put up? I think he'd want to go with Cody. I really do. I think he would probably put up Memphis and maybe Memphis and Christmas. I could see him doing that and thinking that he can then do the final 3 with Nicole and Cody. Angie's saying Cody didn't use a veto. Tyler believes he's heading home. Angie, I think Tyler's probably right, unless something weird happens between now and then. And we heard Christmas talking earlier. Everyone, Memphis and Enzo are saying, you're good. You got the votes. It's no problem. But Christmas saying, yeah, but Tyler's good. He's going to stir stuff up. He's got a couple of days to stir stuff up. But I think you're right. I think Tyler's probably is out the door. Top Gun Phantom, who is playing the best game? Behos, thank you for the animation. I appreciate it. Top Gun saying, who's playing the best game? It's got to be Cody, right? I think it's got to be Cody. Gosh, guys, I'm sorry. I'm so far behind on the comments. I think Cody's playing a really strong game right now. After hearing Memphis talk to Christmas this afternoon, I'm wondering if he'll keep her over Cody. Yeah, Brindy, I could see that. I could see Memphis keeping Christmas. I think Memphis thinks he has better control over Christmas than he does Cody at the end of the day. But then again, he's got the 2 different wise guys connections and all that. So I think Memphis thinks that he's safe with everyone right now. He sees his path to the final 2 without a whole lot of conflict and everything else. He's also making a few bad assumptions. He is at one point has said, hey, Enzo, if you win this HOH coming up, put myself and Nicole on the block, and that way then you'll be able to send Nicole out the door, thinking that Enzo's going to vote to send Nicole out. I'm not sure he's necessarily has that vote like he thinks he does. I think there's a good possibility Enzo could flip and send Memphis out. So Memphis is feeling a little more secure than he needs to. All right, let's see. Yeah, Nicole sees nothing when she looks into Memphis's eyes. I think she'll send him out if she gets a chance, but she wants Christmas out a lot more than she does Memphis at this point at all. Nicole asking, will there be any blowback for the pre-gaming, do you think? No, I don't think so. As long as the ratings are okay and people have enjoyed it. I think more than that, there may be a little blowback just that the game was so conservative, not a lot of huge surprises. But yeah, remember, this is the age of COVID. It was the last second. We weren't even sure if we were going to get Big Brother or not. So I think in terms of twists and ideas and all of that, it probably is tough even getting everything put in place. So if they do another All-Stars, if they worry about pre-gaming down the road, there may be a little more preparation going into it as well. All right, do you think that day will be at the Oh, yeah. Davon at the jury roundtable building a case for Nicole. I'm not sure she's going to build much of a case for Nicole. All right, sorry guys, I'm trying to scan through here as quick as I can. Mama Hog, how did they get rid of Memphis? I think someone gets rid of Memphis not because they consider him some horrible person that they don't like and they don't want in the game, but they simply start running out of targets. When suddenly you've got a final four of Nicole and Cody and Enzo and Memphis, I think those three may send Memphis out the door. Now, here's the deal. Memphis, and I don't know how many of y'all have seen that, but Memphis started saying yesterday he had a major issue with his foot. It was really hurting. I saw one little thing that maybe he jumped into the pool and hit his foot. I'm not sure what was going on, but he had ice on it at one point. If that's the case, I don't know how well he's going to do in these last few competitions. And I truly think that you need to win one of these last few competitions in order to survive. But there's also a little part of me that says, could Memphis be faking his foot injury? Because if you're that injured, it makes it that much easier for everyone else want to take you along to the end, or at least take you up until the final three or so, because they figure they can beat you in those final three competitions and everything. So I don't know. And I only say that because I had an injury last season, and it was a true injury. But I milked it for a week or two and made it seem a little worse than it was, just because I knew people would be less worried about me if they thought that I couldn't even run it on it or anything else. So there's that to be said. Okay, guys, just in case y'all have forgotten or weren't here earlier, I did want to remind y'all again that there's a $50 Amazon gift card that TVCO is giving out. Thank you, TVCO, for viewers tonight. In order to get it, I think. And again, you don't have to do it now, but as soon as the show's over, go out to the Cliff Notes community on the TVCO app. You should find a graphic that says Amazon $50 gift card giveaway. Just make a comment underneath that post about the show or whatever else you feel like talking about. And everyone who's commented then will be up for the prize, and they'll award it sometime after the show. And I'll make sure to find out who it was and talk to y'all about that as well. So go out, when you get done, go out and follow our show on TVCO and comment on that post. All right, Ian said it on day one. The only people he or Nicole would win against would be each other. Yeah, you're right, Nicole. He said that, and she's going to have a big argument talking about that she's the biggest target, and yet here she is. And she may, I don't know, would she get votes from Danny, for example? Maybe, but I don't think she gets Dave Vaughn's vote. I also don't think she gets David's vote because he's going to feel betrayed by her as well. And then Courtney saying, I think Enzo beats Cody, especially if Enzo wins some of the end comps. That's the big deal. Right now, I think Cody beats them all. But if Enzo wins one or two of these last comps, so he can say, look, yo, man, at the end of the thing, I won when I had to win and got me where I was. Because that's the thing Enzo can say as well is, yeah, I didn't win as many as Cody did, but I didn't have to. I didn't get blood on my hands the way Cody did. That's what I've enjoyed about this game. Has it been boring every once in a while? Yeah, sure, because the big alliance has stayed in power the whole time. But it's been fun watching the different strategies come into play. Memphis is off on his own, really going to bed early, not involved in some of the drama. Enzo is this loyal soldier playing all the way through. Nicole's wanting to get drugged at the very end. Cody, by choice or necessity, maybe a little of each, has had to fight every week to win these comps or has chosen to. So there's so many different strategies at play. How do you award that at the end of the season? It's not necessarily the person who won the most comps that deserves the final prize. But that comes into play probably as much or more than anything else. I mean, look at our season last season. Mickey was such a dominant competition threat that I felt like he won that part of my decision making for the winner of Big Brother. I also felt like he won it from the strategic side. From the jury management, I had to give it to Holly, but Mickey had won the other two. And that's kind of how I played into how I made my vote last season. And I think the house guests this season are going to do something very similar. I think, but everyone votes differently. The one thing we were told when we went into the house was, and I think this was before we went into the house, they said, look, when it comes time to voting, if you make it a jury, there aren't any rules. There aren't any expectations. You vote on however you want to vote. There's no right or wrong. It's purely who do you think won the game. And so every person's going to have a little bit different reasoning and justifications for voting the way they did. Excuse me, guys. Mark Ray, do you think Devon, Bailey, or Ian made a mistake in not working with Janelle and Kaiser during the beginning of the season? Yeah, anyone who was outside the committee alliance probably made a mistake of not trying to work with all the other outsiders. You had to do it. The problem was Cody won that very first HOH. There was never a time they weren't in power. And it's tough when someone's in power that you don't go to those people and say, look, just save me. Just save me this week and I'll work with you. I'll do what I can. And under those circumstances, knowing that Janelle and Kaiser had such big targets on their backs, it was easy for everyone else to kind of distance themselves from those two and say, hey, take those two out as long as you leave me alone for a few weeks, with the thinking that surely between now and then I can win an HOH, I can get some power, I can make some things happen. And it just didn't happen this season. Wasn't Final Five HOH questions last season. Final Five was Netflix and chill. I think that's our not Netflix and chill. We had enough of that going on in my season. BB Flicks and chill, I think was the name. They showed different movie posters that involved Big Brother. We had to answer questions about which one had people wearing green suits and ties, things like that. And Nicole couldn't compete, but Holly, Tommy, myself, and Mickey competed. That was when Swaggy and Bailey showed up, and they were hosts for the show. And Mickey won that competition. I hadn't planned on that. I really thought with the mental comps that Mickey wouldn't be able to win it. We could do things differently. That's really where he took, I think, the biggest control of the game. So yeah, that was our Final Five HOH competition. I think this season, we haven't seen the slip and slide yet. The house guests have been talking about it. I tend to agree with them. I think that this season, that Thursday, we're probably going to see slip and slide. As long as from a COVID standpoint, we don't have issues, I think they could build that in the backyard. It shouldn't be that hard to build a little ramp and put a whole bunch of Crisco in there. We haven't seen that, such an iconic event. I kind of expect to see that, which is bad news for Memphis. If he truly has an injured foot, that's a tough one to compete with. My leg was still injured when I did that competition, and it killed me having to push off every time. It was just miserable. A competition where they're up all night. Remember last season they had the bird calls that we had to remember, and then they ended up not even using it. It was a prank. But having something where you have to stay up all night long memorizing stuff would be a lot of fun. I'd like it because then maybe they'd stay up a little bit later, which would be great. Of course, with this season, the way it's gone, they'll probably just cut the feeds all night long, and then I won't have anything to talk about. Speaking of, as someone asked, one of the questions from Instagram earlier said, how come the feeds are getting cut so much? I don't really know. I've heard little rumors. I heard that maybe they're concerned about wall yellers, so they're a little quick on the button every time someone goes outside. I know there's a lot of reasons production-wise that if you mention someone's name that doesn't have a disclosure thing signed, or if you start singing, there's a lot of reasons they have to shut down the feeds. But it just seems like there's been a lot of them here lately. I don't know. It makes it tough to follow some of these conversations. Every once in a while, just when you think someone's getting ready to spill the beans and say something huge, it cuts away, or it goes. Like last night, we had a good hour and a half or so of Nicole, all four cameras on Nicole studying for competitions, which isn't always the most exciting thing to watch. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know the rhyme or reason behind these feeds sometimes. All right, let's see. Enzo's been in the middle most of the game. He's been nice and formed relationships with everyone in the jury. Courtney J., you are right. And his Jimbo 17, is your leg better yet? Yeah, my leg's fine. I've been running out and everything. It just took a while to heal up. Just slight tear during the season. That occurred during the jet ski where we had the take off your clothes while holding the buttons down type competition. And when I jumped off the jet ski, I gave it everything I had. Unfortunately, it was a little bit more than my body was capable of, so I had a little tear. But yeah, it's fine now. But anyway, yeah, Courtney, I think you're right. Enzo has done a fantastic job with jury management. He's a little bit like Nicole was last season, Nicole Anthony, in that when it looked like someone was getting ready to go home, Enzo has gone out of his way, it seems like, to talk to that person, to be as friendly as possible, to talk about what a great game they've played. I think he's doing a good job of making sure he's got plenty of friends inside the house. And that's the difference between Enzo and Cody. As dominant as Cody has been competition-wise, there's also people who are going to blame Cody at the end of the day for sending them to the jury house. Enzo doesn't necessarily have that same blood on his hands. So, yeah, I think Enzo's playing a fantastic game. Which all-time Big Brother competition is your favorite? You got to go with OTEB. I mean, I didn't win it, but that's all right. I love just the idea that I got to play in OTEB was so much fun. So I'll go with OTEB on that, Mark Ray. Brenda, Nicole won't win slip and slide. The only competition, here's the competition I think Nicole may win. If y'all remember last season, it seems like every season they have it. You have to hang on to the ropes with your feet on the disc, and rotate, spin around, slam into items, and get sprayed and all that. Nicole could perhaps do well in that competition. She already showed she was pretty good on the wall competition, so she may be able to win that thing. That was a horrible competition for me. I don't know if it's my body's type, my body weight, or what, but Nicole and Holly, they were just sitting up on those ropes perfectly balanced. I was kind of had the rope at about 45-degree angle, so all the weight I was having to hold on to with the rope, and that was just a miserable competition for me. When I got done, I had bruises all up and down my forearms trying to hold on as long as I did, but I didn't stand a chance in that game. Nicole, on the other hand, that is this competition I think she could win. Slip and slide, nah, she doesn't have a chance. I think if it happens this Thursday where Cody can't compete, Christmas or Enzo, and I maybe ought to go with Christmas. You know, she's CrossFit and all of that, but I think Enzo could do a good job as well. Courtney said, I heard Christmas is blaming wall yellers on her and Tyler being on the block. How does she not get it? It was the vote. Oh, yeah, the Christmas. Nicole complained that Christmas thought the whole game revolved around her. I got to say, I don't think there's a lot of wall yellers lined up outside trying to sabotage Christmas's game as much as other people. Yeah, I don't think that's the reason she's on the block. Brendy's saying they hardly cut the feeds at all during your season. It was great, which is funny. I'll give y'all just a little inside scoop. At one point last season, we were told inside the house, y'all are singing so much, you're humming so much that feeds are getting cut so much, the fans are getting really irritated with y'all, so you got to cut it out. Well, yeah, was that the case or not? I don't know. But we thought at that point in time that, oh, my gosh, people are so irritated with us. Maybe it wasn't the feeds getting cut that irritated a lot of fans with a lot of us in that season. But, yeah, we thought it was that we were just spending too much time singing and doing things that were causing the feeds to get cut. What's your favorite comp from this season? Oh, I don't know, Top Gun fan. You know what I kind of liked? And maybe it's just because it's me. I like the competition where you just rolled the balls back and forth on that ramp, and the first one to land all three balls in the hole won the competition. It's a simple competition, and yet it involved a little physical activity, having to run back and forth, a little skill rolling the balls up. But I think everyone had a chance to win that particular game. And I always like to see the ones that aren't so slanted towards one type of player versus another. And that seemed to just be a nice balance. Kind of anyone's game, but yet you still had control of it. It wasn't just a random shot like golf. I felt like it was a little bit more random. I like the ones where it does take some skill, but anyone has a chance to do it. How do house guests recover from the comps? Do they have physical therapy, ice, or Tylenol? Christmas asked. Wow, Christmas. Yeah, you got a hair pretty quick. I thought I just saw you in the house not that long ago. No, we have aspirin, things like that in the house that you can take. And I know when I hurt my leg, I got an ice pack that I could put on it. Memphis had some kind of ice, looked like a bag of peas or something. So you can do things like that. If it's a truly serious injury, then there are medics that, they're all involved as safety, are all concerned with it. So if it's a truly serious injury, then there's medics that can take a look at you and make sure you're okay. Win it and you're in it comp with a giant slingshot from last season. I had heat exhaustion bordering on heat stroke. And so I actually got seen by a medic and treated and everything with fluids and all that. But for the most part, you're just on your own. You take the aspirin, you take the Tylenol, and you just try to recover before you get to the next competition. Is there any Big Brother legend you tried to craft your game after during last season, Mark Rask? No, not really. I tried to go in and be very analytical and logical, not be emotional about the game. But is that any one specific person? I don't know. There's people like Vanessa Russo who I really admired her strategy. Derek's the same way, that I felt like it was always about the game and not emotional and personal. So I tried to do that as much as I could. Christmas, also my name's Christmas, but I'm an Enzo fan, I think. That's all right. You could be a Christmas fan. We welcome all fans out here. All right, let's see. The Warriors have been more against Nicole and Cody this year. I agree with that, Courtney. And then can a house guest trick have not into eating something they shouldn't? Flea 123 ask. Yeah, I guess so. But here's the thing. I truly believe if production, and this wasn't said to me, I'm not giving insider information or anything. I think if someone tricked a house guest, have not into eating or drinking something they shouldn't, production would probably take that into consideration and say, well, don't do that. Here's your warning. You're in trouble or whatever. But I think they only would give you penalty nominations, penalty votes, if they thought it was an intentional situation. Was it Big Brother 8 where Jen was so upset and she said, I will now perform eating. And she intentionally started eating. I think Matt did the same thing back in season, was he 19? I think so, where he was doing it to try to protect Raven, if I remember. So if you do it intentionally, then production will come after you and penalize you. I think if it's an accident, then maybe not so much. We had last season when Sam was a have-not. We got beer and alcohol, and everyone was so excited. We gave Sam a beer. Didn't even think about it. He didn't think about it. So Sam takes a big old sip of beer, and all of a sudden he goes running over the sink and spits it out. And we also, something wrong with the beer, whatever. He said, I have not. I can't drink it. And so he spit it all out, and he was worried that he was going to get penalized. But production saw that he was trying to follow the rules, so nothing ever came. I don't even think they ever even said anything to him. David Buchanan. The only two occasions I can remember is Jen in season 8. Oh, and Audrey in season 18. Audrey was not happy when she was on the block. If y'all remember, she was the one with the blanket around her, the sunglasses. She was not a happy person when she was on the block. All right, so let's see. I have a few notes I was going to try to talk about as well. Upcoming competition, slip and slide, endurance rope hang. We talked about that. So let's talk about the players. And I know I've talked a little bit about all of them, but I'll do it real quick. Tyler, I think there's a good chance he's going home. So what was his mistake? I think not having a solid final two, watching his back. Yeah, he had Christmas as a final two, but I really think she's tighter with Memphis. Tyler turned into a little bit of a lone wolf. And as a result, now as we get to the end, he doesn't have anyone protecting him. He doesn't have players that are worried that if they go after him, someone else is going to then come after them in retribution. So I think that's his downfall. I know people may argue this. I think losing David was a huge impact on Tyler. If he could have kept David and sent Nicole home, David would have been so indebted to Tyler. I really think David would have become Tyler's ride or die. And even though David wasn't the most amazing strategic player, that's okay for Tyler. He could have took David to the end. David could have won a competition or two to protect the two of them. And I think Tyler could have done a lot. It didn't happen. Christmas, I think she's played a good game overall. Having Memphis as an ally has been a huge help to her. With a potential to win a competition or two at the very end, it could get her to the very end. But as I mentioned earlier, I think her issue is the jury. Bitter jurors are going to have the biggest impact on her as opposed to anyone else. I just don't see her beating anyone, so I think that's her downfall right there. Memphis, props to Memphis for playing a different game. A little abrasive at times, as we all saw, and he certainly got a lot of bad press, and some of it deserved. But with all that being said, Memphis has played a great game of trying to stay out of some of the drama by going to bed early, letting other people do the strategic talk, especially in the first half of the season. And he showed flexibility in creating the committee. Remember, he was kind of old school, and yet he got in with all these new school people, and no one expected it. All these people, when they voted out, when Julie says, here's the alliance, they all have seemed surprised that that Memphis was part of that alliance. But his kind of Achilles heel, perhaps literally, is his injuries he's dealing with. He's dealt with a bad back. Now he's got this badly hurt foot. So I think just a guy trying to keep his body capable of winning competitions may be a little bit of his downfall going forward. Enzo, I think he's playing a fantastic game. He isn't anybody's top target. Assuming that Tyler goes home, as I said before, now suddenly he's the fifth person with two separate duos. You've got Nicole and Cody over here. You've got Memphis and Christmas over here. You've got Enzo in the middle. You would think that Memphis and Christmas go after Nicole and Cody and vice versa and leave Enzo alone, which puts him in a pretty good position to potentially make it to Final Four, maybe Final Three with the right competitions here and there. So I think Enzo's played a pretty good game. I can also see Enzo potentially win America's Favorite Player. Now, I've given him a hard time. As much as he talks about making big moves, that he's going to do this, he's going to shake up the house, and yet even when it came time to vote out Nicole instead of David, he took the easy route. He sent David out the door. That could have been where he could shake it up a little bit. And I've heard him say, because he's having to protect Cody at that point, and I guess. But Enzo's a little bit more talk than he is actual action. But from a gameplay standpoint, maybe that's not such a bad thing. Nicole, I think at this point she's just counting on getting dragged to the end by Cody, and she might make it. But again, I think her jury pitch is going to be all about, I was the biggest threat. I didn't win anything, and yet here I am still. I don't know that it'll win it with these particular jurors, but she's played a pretty good game. And then finally, Cody played a great game so far. Final five. Christmas is the only one that's even targeting Cody. Everyone else thinks that they're best buds with Cody, and he's good to go. Maybe Memphis a little bit, but even Memphis, I think, is keeping Cody for a little while. But this coming up week, as we talked about earlier, it's going to be the riskiest since he can't compete in the HOH. All right, let's see. Let me go some quick questions from the viewers that posted earlier today. And all these shows, guys, I always try to post a thing on Instagram early in the morning for any extra questions. So I'm going to get to these real quick while we still have some time. Mark Season says, which other former house guests would you have loved to see this year on All Stars? Well, there's a few of them. I'll throw out three. Vanessa Russo would have been great. She's one of my personal favorites. Johnny Mack would have been a lot of fun to watch. I just love watching Johnny play. And Donnie. Donnie's one of my favorites. Donnie's one of the ones that inspired me to play or to audition for Big Brother. So any one of those three would have been a lot of fun to watch this season. Matia had said, why is nobody trying to get out the best player of Cody? I think it's because he's insulated himself so well. The fear is that he has so many connections. If you take him out, you'll have a lot of other people coming after you. Plus, everyone else is hoping that someone else takes that shot instead of yourself. And finally, as many HOHs as he has won, I think the chances to actually go after him have just been less than anyone else. So let's see. All right, for those of you, all right, guys, I'm going to wrap this up real quick. For those of you who want to turn on your TV as well, Big Brother just started. So they're about 10 minutes earlier than they thought they were. I don't want anyone to miss it out. So put it on, watch the recaps, but you know what happens. So we'll finish up ours real quick. How do you cook without recipes? Jay Joyner asked. You go with what you know. I would have been happy with macaroni and cheese, sandwiches, eggs, etc. But we had some real cooks in our season. But no, we don't get any recipes or anything. You just rely and hope that you've got someone that's a decent cook while you're in that house. Casadici, did it actually benefit Enzo to keep Nicole? Yeah, I don't think so. I think in voting out Nicole, he would have taken away Cody's strong number one. He had a good relationship with David also that I think he could have utilized. Cody would have been mad, but I think Enzo would have been able to say, look, I was just having to play my game. She was so tight with you. She's a strong social threat, so I had to get rid of her. Ms. Nesbitt, how can you have any pride in winning when you pre-gamed? When the entire focus, think of all the interviews that Jeff Schroeder's done before the season saying, would you rather win and be loved, or would you rather win and be hated, or lose and be loved? Most people say, I'd rather win and be hated. When your entire focus is on winning the game, if a little pre-gaming takes place, then most people, when you got a check for $500,000 in your hand, I know if it was me, I'd say, yeah, whatever it took to win, I'm cool with it. I can handle that. So that's just my own personal thought. Most people probably are more focused on the winning than they are. I don't even want to call it ethics, because it's just part of it at this point, I think. A couple of more things real quick. Cheryl knew it saying, if Christmas stays, do you think she'll put up Cody and Nicole? Absolutely. I have zero doubt on that. And then Angie Hung, why are feet down so much? I think we talked about that. And then final on Christmas in Italian said, do you think COVID has impacted the season? Yeah, I think it's had a huge impact. We didn't have any battle backs, which is not standard. Every year you have either pre-juror or after jury house battle backs. We didn't have either one. I know that's because of COVID. The people who were actually on the show, if it wasn't for COVID, I think we would have had different all-star cast, which may be better, maybe worse. I don't know about that. I didn't want to see seasons 20 have so many people they were stacked against everyone else, but obviously it had a role to play in who actually made it into the games. And so, yeah, I think it's had a huge impact. Some of the competitions that they've had were different competitions just because of what you can build in the backyard and all. So, yeah, I think there's in a lot of different ways, COVID has definitely had some effect. Let's just be grateful we've had Big Brother this season, right? Because back in the middle of summer, early summer, I don't think anyone thought we were actually going to be able to have anything this year. So I'm grateful that we've had it. I've had fun watching this season and watching the different strategies as well. All right. Yeah, thank y'all for saying Big Brother started, because I was so busy talking I may have just missed it. All right. Yeah, Christmas sign. I love your sign. Let me do this. Angie, thank you for the animation. Let me give y'all one final reminder before we shut this thing down about the gift cards. Go out when we shut down. Go out to TVCO community, find Cliff Notes, look for the Amazon graphic, which should be out there, and just make a comment, make a post, and then you're on the running, and hey, you get an hour of talking to me and $50. Well, what could it be? And then you get to turn right around and watch Big Brother. That is just perfect. And you got a little football as well. Just a perfect kind of evening, guys. Absolutely. All right, before I shut down, let me do a couple of things. Angie, Crosstrack, thank y'all so much for your support. Bell 609 and B Haas as well. Thank all of y'all for your support. I do appreciate it. Thank y'all for finding me. I know with the new time change, it was a little tough. With the scheduling from CBS is a little bit tough. The plan going forward is we're going to continue to do this show at 8 o'clock Central, 9 o'clock Eastern. So we'll be trying to come on right after the Big Brother show finishes up. So starting next Monday, you can watch Big Brother for an hour. Then you come over here. We'll talk all about the show. We'll answer questions that are specific to what happened on that particular episode and any other questions that y'all may have. All right, guys, I'm going to shut it down. I'm going to watch Big Brother as well. Find out what's happening. Find out. We get to watch the HOH because we don't know exactly what the HOH was yet. They haven't shown it. So I'm kind of interested to see exactly how that goes. Let me come out here one last time. Thank you, Flea. David Buchanan, is the Amazon gift card applicable to the United States only, or is Canada open to it too? David, I have no clue. I'll just say this. Go out there, make the comment, and if it's not applicable to Canada, we will figure something else out. I'll hold TVCO to that, and we'll figure out some other way to make it work. I'm sure we can, but I don't know. It should be, right? Hey, why should y'all not get the same opportunities that we have? So anyway, all right, guys, y'all have a fantastic week. Again, I will be back here next Monday, 9 o'clock Eastern, 8 o'clock Central. But before that, I also will be doing my Instagram every morning, just a little 15-minute wrap up of the overnight feed. So y'all come out either on YouTube or Instagram and check those out as well. Thank you very much for Flea 123 for the animation. I do appreciate it. Guys, y'all have a fantastic week. Enjoy Big Brother, and I will talk to y'all in a week. Cheers, guys. Have a blast. SKD 143.